Dennis Creamy.
I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the January 30th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Temple City Auto Repair. If you're having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry. And the question that comes up today is, do I feel bad for the 49ers? Do I feel bad about what happened yesterday?
It
was a stone groove that happened yesterday. It was one of the sweetest things that could take place, and I'm going to get into that because the bitter man in me was in full effect. But before I do, I just want to get into something about kind of that game. I want to use basketball to kind of do a little expository on football, right? And before the games were played on Sunday, you know, they had the Lakers Celtics on Saturday. When I was younger, that would have stopped traffic. When I was younger, that the whole day would have been revolving around the Lakers Celtics game that day or night. We would have got together with our friends. We would have made sure it was no riffraff. You got to be in it because you had to beat the Celtics with the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird rivalry. So I really wasn't into it and stuff because it's not the same. But the question came up, you know, did LeBron get hacked on Saturday night? Of course he got hacked. He got hacked at the end. Of course he did, right? And of course, Malcolm Brogdon, you know, they had the evener call where he was called for a flagrant foul, which I didn't get either. But yeah, LeBron was hacked. And here's the thing. I don't care. I just don't care. And you know why I don't care? Because tonight in Brooklyn, 2 nights later, now remember, LeBron gets hacked and he is going full Baryshnikov all over that half court, jumping up and down. And I'm not slamming him for that. But tonight in Brooklyn, LeBron James ain't playing because he has a sore left ankle, right? Anthony Davis ain't playing, right? I like saying the word ain't because it just rings so harshly and true. It's like they ain't playing. They're not playing. And maybe the casual fan cares, but as a former diehard Laker NBA fan, this is why I don't care. You know, parentheses, besides basketball just being unbearable to watch because it's bad basketball. But why I don't care, it goes back to I don't need to see perfection or a great game perfectly executed. You know, I don't. I don't need to see that happen. I fell for sports in the aspect that you have adversity and you have to overcome. I love the grind and the overcoming of things, right? And the inability of NBA players today to grind drives me crazy. It's not worth watching, right? And the NBA, it's all upside down, right? The playoffs are going to go through June. They're too long. They milk everything they can. Yeah, 82 games is too long. 72 games is too long. 60 games would be about right just to make these games matter. People are going to pay thousands of dollars tonight. Some of them are going to pay $1,000 to sit courtside in Brooklyn, and Anthony Davis and LeBron James aren't going to grind. They aren't going to play. You know why? Because for the most part, the schedule doesn't matter. But also, I just think this is where I believe these modern athletes, they're just soft. I'm so happy they're making their money. Good for them, but they're soft. They're not guys like I said about Shannon Sharpe a couple weeks ago. You know, I wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with them. There's just not all of them are like that. If I went down a dark alley, I want Aaron Donald with me. That guy scares me. And Ndamukong Suh scares me. But outside of just some physical attributes, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, you know, Shannon Sharpe, these guys don't scare me because they don't have the ability to grind. They just don't have the ability to grind. And it made me sick when I saw they're not playing after the Celtic game and the loss. Soreness? What? Soreness? You know, now, of course, you know, a Santa Ana wind comes and Anthony Davis goes out for 6 months. But you know, I don't need to see perfect. I just need to see the grind. I need to see competitiveness. I need to see the overcoming. If you're a great NFL fan, you've seen all the Super Bowls, and now we're in that window where we get 2 weeks of Facenda, right? NFL films will show, you know, the Super Bowl marathons, which I absolutely love. Because hearing Facenda is as reassuring as hearing Vin Scully speak, right? It would be like James Earl Jones, not, you know, narrating your life, or Morgan Freeman. And so we're going to watch all the Super Bowls, right? And Super Bowl 5 was between the Colts and Cowboys, and it was a turnover fest. It was an ugly game. It was a nasty game that Jim O'Brien settled with a field goal for a 16-13 victory. And everyone says it was a poorly played Super Bowl. It was awful. Well, you know what? I love that kind of game because the game wasn't perfect. The things didn't go right. I love the grind. I love watching the grind. Now, when my team plays, the Rams, I want a 45-0 blowout. But as a fan, I love watching teams overcome. That's why you had to love Patrick Mahomes yesterday. You just had to. And I counter that with where I'm going with the 49ers right now. And it is RamView, FanView. So the FanView allows me some latitude here. And by the way, happy Mike Jones Day, right? On this day, right? In January of 2000, Mike Jones made that tackle. Rams won their first Super Bowl. Okay. So I was watching the NFC title game, and I'm thinking Shanahan's going to find a way. Purdy goes out. Josh Johnson goes out. I'm thinking he's going to find a way. He's McVay's daddy, and McVay's a great coach, but Shanahan is going to find a way. Father knows best, right? Apparently, I don't know. I thought for all the credit, and I think for all the credit that Kyle Shanahan gets for being creative, right? That Shanahan was decidedly uncreative when he lost his quarterbacks. It was clear. Everybody from Philly to Mongolia knew Purdy couldn't throw the ball, right? And you put him back on the field. He was wasted space on the field. Really, what they should have done is done the best they could do. Go Wildcat, put McCaffrey or Samuel in that Wildcat position and play some backyard football and been creative in that manner. But I just thought it was lame to keep trotting Purdy out there when he couldn't do more than a 5-yard dump. I give Purdy credit, but I feel like he was decidedly uncreative in that moment, and I think it caught them. And as the bitter man, as I've explained that I am when my Rams don't make the playoffs, the bitter man inside of me, I was in full flower. I was thrilled. I was in that middle ground last week where, man, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but who's my enemy, right? Cowboys, Niners? As a Ram fan growing up, my hatred for the Cowboys goes to the core. But I found myself rooting for them because I thought the Cowboys are going to biff it somewhere along the way. And they would have been clocked by the Eagles yesterday. But my feeling was it's a greater quotient of or greater quality of pleasure to see the 49ers lose, 11-game winning streak, 12-game winning streak, McCaffrey, everything's going their way. Brock Purdy's the new Kurt Warner. All these things are happening. It's great. And then to see their dreams crushed as a Ram fan, that's like too sweet, right? That's just like, that's the best, right? And so I didn't feel sorry for the 49ers at all, not in the least. As I posted on social media yesterday, I was supposed to still feel sorry for the 49ers because they lost their fourth-string quarterback. Hey, Ty Neskey, Matt Skura, Oday Aboushi, and I haven't even gotten into Bobby Evans. We'll keep Bobby Evans out of this. But Neskey, Skura, and Aboushi, that was the Rams' offensive line the back half of the season. And in August, they were all working or applying to Home Depot, okay? And like I said, we haven't even gotten to Bobby Evans. So no pity here. None. No pity, right? No pity. We lost Logan Bruss before the season started. We lost Tremaine Ankrum after one play. We lost the guy that we invested in at left tackle for the whole season. No, sorry. I'm not going to show any pity for you because you lost your guys. Because if the Rams had kept their offensive line, they likely would have been a 9-10 win team. We could already add up the games they should have won, right? The games they should have held on to, and they'd already be in the 8-9 category. And they easily could have won 10 games and been in this. So my team sits home because of all the injuries. And now the 49ers are going home because, Trey Lance, Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and Josh Johnson all go down. I don't have any pity at all. Sorry, that's football. Figure it out. Now, the Rams try to figure it out by throwing John Wolford out there. Thank goodness we got Baker Mayfield in that made it tolerable, but you got to figure it out. That's the beauty of football. You have to figure it out. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, I think the coaching staff, not the players, but the coaching staff kind of just says, well, we don't know what we're going to do. Might as well. And I was really disappointed watching the 49ers coaching staff to get decidedly uncreative and such. And here's the really cool part in the bitterness mode that I'm in. Another year come and gone, another window closing for the 49ers, right? Is that awesome or what? We were talking about it going into this year. Their window is closing. And then by starting Trey Lance, they were going to need at least half a year to get him up to speed so they could really compete. And that was questionable. Is he going to get there? And then, of course, he gets hurt. They do their mea culpas to Jimmy G. He comes back and such, and then their season goes off rails yesterday. Beautiful. It's great. So that whole year, 12 wins, McCaffrey, we did all these great things. Big deal. You're still not going to the Super Bowl, and you're definitely not going to win the Super Bowl. So going forward, what do the 49ers do? There's all the Tom Brady buzz. As of right now, I would assume they're going to dance with Brock Purdy because do you want to burn up another year waiting for Trey Lance to develop? You can keep Trey Lance. You invested a lot to grab Trey Lance, but do the players on your roster have another year or 2 years in them before the bodies start falling apart? And this is San Francisco. We know the thing about Frisco, their style of play, the water they drink, whatever's going on up there in Santa Clara, they always break down. Remember, Deebo Samuel played yesterday, but Deebo Samuel was out for a length of time. Christian McCaffrey was surprisingly healthy this year, but in 20 and 21, those last 2 years in Carolina, he was hurt. So do you wait another year for Trey Lance to develop? Do you build on what Brock Purdy gave you? Jimmy G is gone, right? Josh Johnson is not going to be the guy. And what the heck was Jimmy G smiling about on the sidelines? That was another thing. I don't know. What was he smiling about? Bad look. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. That was just a bad look. Anyway, tangent. I found myself rooting for Josh Johnson yesterday when Purdy went out. I didn't want to root for the 49ers, but Josh Johnson's such a great story, and I was kind of hoping that this guy needs a book about him. 13 organizations. He's been around so long. I'd rather read his book than a book about Brady, Mahomes, or Joe Burrow, or Josh Allen, because that's a story about grinding and a story about overcoming. And so when he got his chance yesterday, I'm thinking, oh, man, this could be something special. And then he played lousy. Bummer. There's a reason he's been on 13 teams going forward. But anyway, I digress. Back to the nitty-gritty of the 49ers. Trent Williams, their left tackle, best left tackle in football, he turns 35 this coming August. George Kittle turns 30 next season. Deebo Samuel is 27, but he has a big fat contract and he has a lot of mileage. Christian McCaffrey turns 27. He has a lot of mileage, and they owe him next year 11.8 rocks. In 2024, they owe him another 11.8. In 2025, they owe him 12. And he's got a lot of mileage on him. Nick Bosa is 25. He has a lot of mileage on him. Eric Armstead is 29. He has a lot of mileage on him, right? They're free agents this year. Matt McGlinchey, the right tackle, middle of the road right tackle. He's worth 10 rocks. Jimmy Ward, their longtime safety, who wasn't starting at the end. He had a lot of injuries. He's 31. He's a free agent. Jimmy G, we talked about. Azeez El-Shaair, the outside linebacker, free agent. Robbie Gould, free agent. Tayshaun Gibson, who they got a lot of clicks out of in the secondary this year, he's a free agent. Now, their cap space is good, and the cap space is really going up to a record high. So they do have the money, but they're paying a lot of money to Trent Williams, Eric Armstead. They're 22% of the cap. Bosa makes 17 rocks next year, and then he's a free agent in 2024. And I already talked to you about the commitments to Samuel and McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk makes 2.3 next season, but then he becomes a free agent. So the 49ers are in a position where they've got to win now. And so that leads to the speculation. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady doing something there because their window is sliding shut. And you can say, well, the Rams' window is sliding shut. But you know what about the Rams? They've already gone through their window. They got their ring. 49ers got to play in the game in 19, but since then they haven't been back, and that window is closing, right? They've got a bunch of comp picks. If you didn't know it, Mike McDaniel, Robert Saleh, they are minorities, and they got comp picks for their hire in Miami and New York, respectively. Martin Mayhew, that was another one. I think the Redskins signed him as a GM. He brings a comp pick. So they got some like 6-7 comp picks. And also another player personnel guy, Rand Carthen, signed with Tennessee. And so they get 2 third-round picks, one this year and one next. It's like when was it Brad Holmes left the Rams. The Rams got 2 compensation picks because Holmes and now Rand Carthen are minorities. And that was the interesting thing. There's a belief there that maybe Carthen might want to make a move to bring Trey Lance with him to Tennessee. The 49ers had traded all their picks, right? They going in, their original picks were 2 5s and 2 7s. So they will be good next year. They're not a team you could write off. But will they be this good? I don't know if they'll be this good. Another year older, wheel comes around, you're going to get hurt. And so, yeah, the guys they're relying on have a lot of mileage. So marvelous. I didn't say it at the top. I'll say it now. I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView. Thank you for sticking with me. Had some busy days out of town, a lot of stuff. Hope to do this quite often. And you guys have been amazing. I cannot believe, as inconsistent as I have been, that folks have been blessing me with clicks and saying hi. I am a writer. I write books. I think you can see some right down here, maybe somewhere right down there. Yeah, Sin Virus. You can see that. I write books. I've written a couple high school football books that can be found on Amazon. Available on Amazon on softcover and Kindle. And I do that. That's how I supplement my living. As I was a sports writer for 21 years, was one of the founders of Mid-Valley Sports. Those guys cover the NFL now. And also, I pastor a small church. That's my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank. And you can catch us at Burbank Faith Virtual right here on YouTube. Also, you can catch us at Burbank Faith Virtual on Facebook. And we spread our sermons around everywhere, our messages. So that's who I am, right? I did the commercial and got that out of the way. Let me sip some coffee. I'm also on the board at Granite Ridge Christian Camp. I am the executive director of Outsiders Camp Ministries, and that's my job. Okay, so let's look around the NFL a little bit and bring it into the Rams. Frank Reich gets the job with the Panthers. I didn't get a chance to talk about this last week. Good for Frank Reich, but everyone's up in arms about Steve Wilkes, right? And they're crying racism. I don't know if racism's involved, but I'll tell you this. Steve Wilkes didn't get the gig because he was an interim. He was an interim coach. Yeah, he went 6-6 and got them close, but of course that was the NFC South, right? But this is how an interim works, and I know this in my profession, right? The interim is called in to hold the ship together, right? Sometimes from within, as I've pastored churches, when the senior pastor leaves, someone else on staff is asked to fill in as the interim. You fill the pulpit, you keep the ship going, right? But also in the middle of that interim thing, you are asked to resign. Everybody on staff resigns, and it's kept in the desk of the administrators, because when the new pastor comes, or the new boss comes, or the new coach in this case comes, they're going to make their own decisions. And also, you're the interim. You're holding the ship together for the franchise or the organization so they can do the scouting on who they want to be their head coach, right? So the interim is an opportunity to build your resume. Steve Wilkes had a disastrous season in Arizona back in, 2018? Had a disastrous season. Of course, he was stuck with Josh Rosen. He didn't get a full chance. But whatever it was, they decided it wasn't working and they moved on. Bad look on his resume. He goes to Carolina. He goes 6-6. That team was dead in the water. Good. This is how it works. You work as an interim. You build your resume. And now you use that to go on to your next opportunity, right? Well, it's unfair. It's race, blah, blah. Hey, Rich Bisaccia stepped into that Raider mess in 2021, right? There was the Gruden setup, the Gruden issue. There was the Henry Ruggs slaughter murder case. Get drunk and drive, it's murder, right? You call it manslaughter if you want. But we know there's Damon Arnett, the cornerback out of Ohio State they drafted in the first round, that was waving his gun around, threatening people. And somehow Rich Bisaccia found a way to helm that team to a 7-5 record and into the playoffs. Of course, Derek Carr had a lot to do with that. But the fact that he pulled that off and got to the playoffs, even he didn't get that job in Las Vegas. I think he ended up in Green Bay, and I think he's interviewing in Jacksonville today. He didn't get the job. And you got to be careful, because there's a reason people are interims, right? Remember, if you're a USC fan, Clay Helton was an interim, all right? Clay Helton was an interim. All right, keep it going. Coming up to the 20-minute mark, salary cap will jump to $224 $1.8 million in 2023. That's huge. Now, the Rams have cap issues. They ended this year with something like 1 point something left, and they have issues going in when the new calendar kicks in. But these are not insurmountable issues, right? They can cut Ty Higbee, which they probably should, and move on. They can. There's players they can move, and there's veteran contracts they can restructure, right? And outside of an edge rusher, because we know we got something in Michael Hoyt, but I don't know if Michael Hoyt is the edge guy, right? Outside of an edge rusher, and the Rams have 10 draft picks, second, third, multiples in the fifth, second, third, multiples in the sixth, fifth. They got draft picks, right? They can package, do whatever they do, and need to get an edge rusher. They need to get an edge rusher. But what the Rams need most of all is to get healthy. So you could restructure these contracts. The cap goes up. I don't think there's something really desperate that you need. This offensive line has had an incredible amount of playing time this year. And so when the healthy guys come back, there are some decisions. There are some big things. Can Logan Bruss play? Can Tremaine Ankrum stay healthy? Because the team likes Tremaine Ankrum. The team likes Joe Noteboom. And if you could figure out with Noteboom and Ankrum and that right guard spot, and then you got to find out about David Edwards, right? That skull thing. But the concussion. And then you got Alaric Jackson who developed, who you could really like. He's got the blood clot issue. So if they could get these guys healthy, the Rams not only have some players on the offensive line, but they have some depth. What they need, though, is that edge rusher, and I think they need a new DC. I really hope Raheem Morris gets that gig in Indianapolis. The Rams need a new DC. They need a new philosophy, right? They need a new scheme. So put that out there, okay? Some of the Rams schedule is out. It's not, of course, in chronological order. It's too early for that, but it was released that the Eagles, Steelers, Packers, Cowboys, Ravens, and Bengals are on the schedule. How many times do the Rams have to play the Packers? And are the Packers actually going to come to SoFi for once instead of the Rams going up to Lambeau? And I'm guessing based on the divisions those teams are in, NFC North, NFC East, NFC East, and AFC North. I'm looking at that. It could be the Browns, Taxkins could be coming. Giants, they might have to play them along with their regular teams they play in their division. So it'll be interesting to see how it all schedules out. Nowhere near as bad as it was this year, that schedule. Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur's brother, the Green Bay HC, his brother Mike, looks like he's going to be the next OC. I don't care. It's McVay's offense. Come on, let's be real, right? I don't have a problem with Tony Romo. I was popping in my feed that Romo sucks. I don't have a problem with Tony Romo. I kind of like Tony Romo. In fact, I think Romo was ahead of the curve on all these guys. I don't mind Greg Olsen. Can't stand Troy Aikman. And in fact, here's the great gift that Tony Romo is. He makes Jim Nantz tolerable. I'm not a Jim Nantz guy, but he makes Jim Nantz tolerable. That lethal combination of Phil Simms and Jim Nantz for years used to make me turn the CBS station off because I couldn't stand hearing those guys. They destroyed Super Bowls because they were just awful. Tony Romo was good. Everyone should lay off Tony Romo. And then the Cowboys fired everybody faster than Nixon in the Saturday Night Massacre, right? They fired Leon Lett, defensive line coach. Remember Leon Lett? They fired Joe Philbin, the former Miami HC offensive line coach. They fired Skip Pete, running back coach. Used to be coach of the Rams, and another assistant named Rod Davis. And they mutually agreed to part ways with Kellen Moore. And now Kellen Moore, their former OC, is likely, most definitely, probably going to be the Chargers OC. That's a good move for the Chargers. And which is really funny because are they holding these guys responsible because Dak Prescott's an average quarterback? Are they holding these guys responsible and making them unemployed because Jerry Jones didn't have the NAD to just say, you know what? I'm sick of paying money for average. That's what it is. Apparently, Mike McCarthy's going to take over the playbook and the play calling. Okay. Vic Fangio, whose best destiny is as a DC, signs with Miami and Mike McDonald. Mike McDaniel. That's a good move for Cincy. I think for Miami. That's a really good move. Oh, real quick, before I talk about Nick Sirianni, I saw this the other day. Bobby Hull, hockey great, Blackhawks guy, Bobby Hall, who was a name that I knew when I was a kid. In fact, when I got into hockey in the late 70s, he was still around a little bit. And he was this legendary guy, Bobby Hull, Bobby Orr. He was Bobby Hull. He was the Blackhawk guy. Orr was the Boston Bruins guy. And he passed away this weekend. And he's 84. And all it is his name just goes across the bottom scroll of ESPN and Fox Sports 1. And if this guy passed away 30, 40 years ago, he gets his due, And I got to tell you this, sometimes as a pastor, I end up I do quite a bit of funerals, but it's really a shame. Sometimes someone outlives all their friends. Sometimes they outlive their family. Sometimes they keep on living, and anyone that would have come to their funeral had already gone. I used to tell this. I said, your father was really loved, but all those friends you knew, they're all gone. And so the church isn't going to be full, not because your father wasn't loved, but because everyone's gone. And that was the bummer about Bobby Hall, is that maybe in some of the deep hockey subculture world, everyone's mourning and talking about him, but just in general, no one's talking about Bobby Hall, and he was a great player. Okay, Nick Sirianni, right? And the Eagles. I can see why people love this team. I loved watching them yesterday. They were just so efficient. They did all the right things, took time off the clock. And I get it. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm rooting for KC in the Super Bowl. And Jalen Hurts, wow, right? To me, the only thing Jalen Hurts needs, and I know he's not healthy right now. He's banged up. The only thing to me that I think Jalen Hurts needs is that critical big signature drive via his arm to put himself at the next level. And of course, you win a Super Bowl, you're next level. But that's the only thing I think keeping me from just elevating him. He doesn't look healthy to me right now, not compared to how he looked earlier in the season. And the more he develops his arm talent, that means the less hits he's going to have to take, because they've got a heck of a receiving group. And Boston Scott and the Gainwell kid and Sanders, they got a nice little committee back there. The one thing that is getting interesting to me, though, is that if Philly wins, does Jalen say, okay, I want to get paid now? Right? Because he came in 2020. This is his third year. He'll be going into his fourth year. Will he want to get paid now? And then that could change something in terms of how the structure of the Eagles salary cap is done. Getting to the Chiefs, Bengals, haven't talked much about it. It was just a classic. What am I going to add to it, right? Mahomes and Burrow, it was classic. And the flag on Osai had to be thrown. It's too bad, but that's life, right? And rightly so, people are talking about that. No one's talking about the punt return of Sky Moore. Yeah, that I figured the game was going to end at that point sooner or later. But what I loved about this game, and it goes back to that grinding aspect, right? I thought the 49ers, their coaching staff stopped grinding when they lost their quarterbacks. But when the Chiefs, it looked like it was 20-13, and then Mahomes has that empty palm and they recover and it turns into a 2020 game. I could feel the sick of my Chief fan friends. I could feel the sick coming over the airwaves to my house as I was watching that, because it's like, oh no, this is going to happen again. And I really thought, the conversation today, I was thinking about, how do I talk about this? And I was going to talk about how the Chiefs are going to become the 80s New York Mets. And the 80s New York Mets won the 86 title. But the belief is that they should have won at least two more, right? So there's always that disappointment that, you faltered in 87, you lost to the Dodgers in 88, you missed your window, and you only got one when it should have been multiple. And I started thinking that, wow, if the Chiefs lose this game, they come back, and they still have Mahomes for the next decade, but Travis Kelce is older. Chris Jones is getting older, and they've had bang-ups, and they've had issues, and things go on that, yeah, I'm not saying that Mahomes would never go back to a Super Bowl. Remember, there was like a 10, 11-year stretch there between the Patriots winning Super Bowls with Brady, and they lost a couple along the way. But it was going to be with a new cast of characters and outside of Mahomes. So I really felt like I was watching this game. I thought the Chiefs dug deep, and I've never seen them. It was the first time I've really seen this Chiefs team dig deep. They got punched in the nose. It was on the line. They're in front of their fans. They didn't roll over. And sometimes, man, you were watching that game last year, that AFC title game last year in the second half. They didn't look the same. They didn't look the same at all. Hence That's why everyone's calling it Burrowhead instead of Arrowhead. But they dug down deep, and it was great to see. And Mahomes is brilliant, and Burrow's only going to get better. But Mahomes is like the embodiment of every football video game you ever played as a kid. And I didn't play him. I watched him. I watched my guys play him, and such. So yeah, that was fun to watch. I think the Eagles are across the board more talented than KC, but KC has Patrick Mahomes and 2 weeks to heal that ankle, and it'll be interesting because the Eagles are going to run the ball. They're going to try to give them a federal pounding, and KC is going to have to adjust to that. We'll see what they dial up. All right. Hey, I think I got this in. Oh, my goodness. Someone is out there watching me. Thank you so much for clicking on. And I'm Joe Terosian, and I'm going to have to let you go because I got work to do. I got stuff to do. Take care, and we will spread this around. If you could leave some comments, leave some likes, tell your friends, spread us around on social media, it would be great. God bless. Take care. I'm Joe Terosian, and we will talk to you soon.